The art of living simply, a Buddhist way. Andrew was a man who had everything. At least, that's what people thought. A towering glass office in the heart of the city bore his name. His home was a mansion with more rooms than memories. He owned cars that sparkled under showroom lights, wore watches that cost more than some people earned in a year, and dined where waiters bowed deeper than monks. Success, wealth, admiration, they all circled him like satellites. But Andrew couldn't sleep. Each night, as the city fell quiet, he would lie awake staring at the ceiling, heart pounding for no reason he could name. He had doctors, therapists, sleeping pills. None of them worked. He told himself it was stress. Normal for someone like me, he muttered. But in truth, Andrew was beginning to feel like a ghost inside his own body. One weekend, worn out and unable to explain why, he decided to take a break from the city. He hadn't visited his father in years, not since his mother died. His father still lived in the village where Andrew grew up, in a small bamboo house that hadn't changed in decades. There was no Wi-Fi, no smart TV, just a wooden bench, a clay kettle, and the sound of wind dancing through the banana trees. Andrew arrived in a black SUV, wearing sunglasses and a $1,000 coat. His father met him with a simple smile and a cup of tea. "Still living here, Dad?" Andrew asked, glancing around the sparse room. His father chuckled. "Still breathing, still eating rice, still smiling. So yes, still living here." They talked little that night. Andrew's phone kept buzzing. He tried to sit still, but couldn't. The silence felt too loud. The next morning, his father rose before dawn and invited Andrew to walk with him. They strolled barefoot through a nearby path, muddy and lined with dew-covered grass. At the top of a hill, they sat beneath a tamarind tree. "You look tired, son," his father said. Andrew exhaled sharply. "Running a company will do that to you." His father turned to him, eyes calm. "No, running from yourself will." Andrew said nothing. The old man continued, "There was a time I had everything too. I built a house 10 times this size, drove cars, carried cash thick enough to wedge a door open. But I also lost your mother because of it, and nearly lost you." Andrew's jaw tightened. He remembered the long absences, the shouting, the night his mother cried in the kitchen, thinking Andrew was asleep. He hadn't forgotten. "I chased wealth because I thought it would give me freedom," his father said. "But it only gave me more to guard, more to fear, more to lose." Andrew looked down at his polished shoes, now muddy. "So you just gave it all up?" His father smiled. "No. I gave up the illusion that more is better. I chose less, and less gave me more." Andrew scoffed. "That's easy for someone who's already lived." His father placed a hand on his shoulder. "No, son. It's hardest for those who never learn what really matters until it's too late." Back at the house, Andrew scrolled through his phone while his father lit incense in a small altar and bowed. He watched from the doorway, confused. That evening, his father cooked a meal of boiled vegetables and rice. No wine, no dessert, just enough. Andrew pushed food around his plate. "Don't you get bored?" His father laughed. "I used to, but then I learned to chew slower. Now, every meal feels like a blessing. That night, Andrew lay in bed, phone on his chest, screen glowing in the darkness. Emails, deals, messages from people who called him boss, but didn't know his middle name. He turned the phone off, and for the first time in a long time, he heard his own breath. In the following days, Andrew stayed longer than planned. Something about the stillness unnerved him, but also softened him. He helped his father sweep leaves, fed stray dogs, sat with village kids as they read aloud. He began to notice things he'd once forgotten. The way morning sunlight filters through leaves. The way silence can feel like a song. The way a warm bowl of rice could comfort the soul more than a steak dinner ever could. Before returning to the city, his father handed him a small journal. Inside, in neat handwriting, were quotes, reflections, and short poems, one for each day of the year. On the first page, his father had written, "The art of living simply is not about rejecting the world, but about not being possessed by it. To own little, but feel rich. To do less, but be more." Andrew closed the book and held it tightly. Back in the city, everything felt louder, faster, colder. His apartment seemed hollow, like a hotel room no one checked out of. He went back to work, but meetings felt pointless. Laughter at cocktail parties sounded rehearsed. His bank account grew, but so did the ache inside. He couldn't stop thinking about his father's smile, the peace in his eyes, the ease in his body, and a question began to burn inside him. Had he spent his whole life trading joy for appearances? Andrew returned to the city with his suitcase full, but his heart empty. The skyline looked different now, less inspiring, more suffocating. The neon lights no longer dazzled him. They just flickered, loud and hollow. He sat in his penthouse, looking out over the city. Cars moved like ants beneath him. His phone buzzed constantly, but he didn't pick it up. Not even when his assistant messaged, "Board needs you at 9 a.m. Not even when his lawyer sent updates on a pending acquisition. Instead, he opened his father's journal. "The mind that cannot sit still will never find peace, no matter how soft the cushions." Andrew chuckled bitterly. Cushions, he had plenty of. Peace, not a trace. That week, everything began to unravel. First, it was a leak in the media. An anonymous whistleblower accused Andrew's company of unethical outsourcing. Investors panicked. Stock prices dipped. Then came the call from his wife. "I can't do this anymore, Andrew," she said flatly. "You've never really been here. Not for me. Not for Emma. We're moving out." Emma, his daughter. That name echoed through his skull like a bell. That night, he went into Emma's room. The bookshelf was dusty, the pink chair untouched. On the wall, there was a drawing of the three of them, stick figures holding hands. In shaky, childish letters it said, "I wish Daddy wasn't so busy." Andrew sat on the floor and cried for the first time in years. Days blurred. He went through the motions, meetings, statements, damage control. But inside, something had shifted. A fracture had become a canyon. He was breaking, and for the first time, he was willing to let it happen.
One evening, during a charity gala, he looked around the room full of laughter and designer suits. He realized he didn't know anyone, not really. Not their stories, not their struggles, only their titles, their net worths. He excused himself, stepped outside, and stood under the sky. No stars, just smog and skyscrapers. And so he drove for hours, no direction, just away, until he found himself once again at the monastery his father used to visit. The gates were still open. An old monk saw him and simply nodded. No questions, no judgment. Andrew bowed and entered. He stayed for a week, then another, then a month. He didn't shave his head or take vows. He didn't change his name or post anything online. He just slowed down. He woke with the sunrise. He swept leaves. He learned to breathe with his belly, not his chest. He ate in silence. He washed his bowl, then thanked it. At first, it all felt absurd. Why am I here? He wondered. This won't bring my family back. It won't fix the company. It won't undo what I've done. But then one morning, as he sat under a Bodhi tree, watching a spider weave its web, something in him softened. He wasn't thinking about results anymore. He wasn't trying to fix, win, or conquer. He was just there, present. It was the first time he realized how much of his life he'd lived absent. One day, during walking meditation, he heard the sound of children laughing. A group of local kids were visiting the temple. Among them, a girl with hair like his daughter's. He sat beside her while she drew on a piece of paper. "Is that your dad?" he asked gently. "No," she said. "It's the monk who gave me tea." "What are you drawing?" She smiled. "A home, a real one." Something inside him cracked again. That evening, as the sun dipped below the hills, Andrew sat with the abbot of the monastery. "I came here to escape," he admitted. The abbot smiled kindly. "Most people do, but what you're escaping isn't outside you. It's inside." Andrew nodded. "I thought if I fixed my company, my family would come back. If I worked harder, gave more money, they'd forgive me." The monk poured tea. "Have you ever tried giving them your presence?" He didn't answer. The abbot placed a hand on his. "Your daughter doesn't need your success. She needs your attention. Your wife doesn't want apologies. She wants presence. You've been chasing love through performance, but love is found in stillness." That night, Andrew wrote a letter. "To my daughter, I've spent years building towers, not moments, buying gifts, not memories. I forgot that a father isn't someone who provides, but someone who stays. I am sorry I wasn't there, but I am here now, and I want to build a home with you, not a house, a home. Love, Dad." He returned to the city, but not to resume his life. He sold the company, split the money fairly, kept just enough to live without fear, and then he let go. He didn't run away. He walked away, slowly, with deep breaths and nothing in his hands, except his father's journal and a seed of peace he would never trade again. Viewer interaction prompts for the end of the video. Have you ever been so busy chasing success that you lost sight of what truly matters? If you had to choose simplicity or status, what would you pick? Can broken relationships be healed with presence? Or is it sometimes too late? A year passed, not quickly, not slowly, just naturally. Andrew now lived in a modest wooden house on the outskirts of the same village he once called backwards. There were no servants, no board meetings, no breaking news, but there was a garden and a kitchen that smelled of lemongrass and ginger. There was quiet, there was laughter, there was Emma. She came to visit that spring, not because he asked, but because this time she felt him asking, not with words but with change. He was waiting at the gate when she arrived, not in a suit, not with a phone in hand, just in loose cotton clothes, barefoot, smiling with eyes that no longer wandered. "I didn't recognize you," she said, half joking. "That makes two of us." He smiled back. They spent the next few days doing nothing special. Walking, planting flowers, watching ants carry crumbs across the porch. One morning, he brewed her tea and placed it on the table next to a small clay figurine she had made years ago. He had kept it, cracked and faded. "Why this life?" she finally asked. "You could have had it all." Andrew thought for a moment, looking out at the sun filtering through banana leaves. "I had everything," he said quietly, "except myself. And when I lost everything, I finally found what matters." He handed her a small journal, his father's journal. Pages dog-eared, smudged, lived in. Inside was a note, now written in Andrew's own hand. "You don't need to renounce the world to live simply. You just have to stop letting the world live inside you." Emma turned the pages slowly. "I think Mom would have liked this version of you." Andrew nodded. "I think I like him too." When his father passed that winter, he died sitting upright on his wooden bench, wrapped in a blanket, the firelight dancing on his wrinkled face. He had a faint smile. There was no drama, no machines, just the breath, his final one, leaving him as gently as a leaf drifting to the ground. Andrew performed the rituals himself. He bathed his father's body with warm water and sandalwood, wrapped him in white cotton, and carried him to the cremation grounds along with a few monks and villagers. As flames took the form away, something else ignited in Andrew. Not grief, but deep clarity. His father hadn't died in loneliness. He died fulfilled, light. And Andrew knew this was not the end. This was an invitation to carry forward what had been passed down, not in blood, but in breath. In the months that followed, Andrew began writing. Not business plans, not speeches, but reflections, letters, lessons. He published a small book titled
The Art of Living Simply. It wasn't a bestseller, but it reached people. People tired of running. People whose homes were full but hearts were starving. People who longed for silence but feared stillness. People just like he once was. And in every talk, every interview, every retreat he led, he began with a single story, not about success, but about that one night, sitting in the dark with nothing but a phone full of unanswered messages, and the question that changed everything: what am I really living for? One afternoon, as he sat in the garden reading a letter from a man in another country who said his book had stopped him from taking his life, Emma came out with tea. "People are really listening to you now," she said. Andrew looked up, "Because I finally started listening to myself." They sat in silence. No need to fill it. It was full already. Emma sipped her tea. "Do you ever miss your old life?" He paused. "Sometimes, when I forget what matters. But then I remember, peace tastes better than power, and being known by you means more than being admired by the world." As the sun began to set, Emma stood and walked to the gate. She turned back. "Thank you, Dad, for coming back to yourself, for coming back to us." He didn't speak. He just bowed, and as she walked away, he sat alone again, but not lonely. He picked up the journal, now worn and faded, and wrote, "In the end, the art of living simply isn't about having less. It's about needing less, expecting less, holding less, so we can feel more." Final reflection for narration or video closing. Not everyone will understand why Andrew gave up millions, why he walked away from a life others killed themselves to have, why he chose vegetables over vacations, clay cups over crystal, silence over applause. But those who've been there, the ones who've climbed high and still felt empty, they'll understand. And perhaps they'll ask themselves, what would I need to let go of to finally live simply? Would you give up everything if it meant gaining peace? Is a simple life weak, or is it the bravest choice? What's stopping you from living simply, really? Is it fear or ego?